Happy midweek, everybody. We've got a great story this weekend that we're talking about. It is about David's grandson, Rehoboam, and the whole situation that happens with the division of the kingdom once again, which I know is weird because just this last week we talked about how David was the kind of the unifying factor, right, to bring the kingdom together, that the northern tribes finally said, okay, David, you can be our king after 7 years of him already reigning down in Hebron. He brings the people together in Jerusalem. He brings the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem as this great unifying thing, right? Not only are we going to be one people, but we're one religion. We all worship the same God together named Yahweh. And then things quickly go off the rails just 2 generations later when David's grandson Rehoboam takes control of the kingdom. If you read the story this week, it's almost humorous in some ways how it goes down. Rehoboam's just dumb. He just his decision making is just not smart. And so there's a lot to talk about there. But he's not the only one involved, of course, right? There's this other guy named Jeroboam. So we have Rehoboam on one hand, who's David's grandson. We have Jeroboam on the other, who ends up becoming the first king of the northern tribes of Israel, or as they're reconstituted, the northern tribes of Israel. And this sets off, right, the chain of events that spans for hundreds of years after this, of this civil war, these two nations at war now, one in Jerusalem in the south, one in the northern kingdoms to the north. And what happens with all of that? Well, it begins here in this moment. But how it begins, there's such a powerful lesson there for us to take away for how this all gets started on the advice of his friends. And we're going to talk about that. What does it look like to take and receive good advice? What does it look like to reject bad advice? How do we have discernment and wisdom from ourselves to determine what is good and what is bad advice? So there's a lot that goes into this story, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it this week. This is just such meaty stuff here, kind of right smack in the middle of the Old Testament that we're getting into. So we've got this week, and we've got a few more weeks of talking about all this, and then before you know it, we're going to be diving into the gospel story of Jesus once again. And so let's continue to pay attention to the story that Jesus is a part of. This is his story, right? The story of his people, and it becomes our story as we are inheritors of this covenant, this promise of God that stretches back all the way to Adam, to Noah, to Moses, all these people, Abraham. It just stretches right on through and comes to us. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. This story makes me laugh. I can't help but continue to laugh as I think about the story because it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. So anyway, read it for yourselves. Come prepared. 1 Kings chapter 12. That's where it is. I probably should have said that earlier on in my video. Some of you may only watch just to hear that. 1 Kings chapter 12. Sorry about that. 1 Kings chapter 12 is where we're going to be. And then next week, we're going to follow that up with another story in 1 Kings. But for this week, 1 Kings chapter 12, read it, think about it. What is there to be learned and gained from this story? So I'm looking forward to talking about it this weekend. I hope everybody's had a wonderful week. Beautiful fall is out. I'm looking right now at all the colors, the oranges, the yellows, the reds, the greens, the browns, all perfectly mingling and mixing and coming together. It's so beautiful. It's a great time to be alive and to see God's beauty and to talk about these stories. So have a great week, and I'll see you Sunday. And if not, that's okay too. But I will talk with you next week about what's coming up. So until then, be well, and we'll see you again next week.